Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 366, but it is evident.
Okay, but before we start reading it, I'll just give you the gist, the summary of what he has said in the previous para, so that you get the continuity. The Purusha is nothing but the immutable reality, the self that only witnesses or accepts passively or rules and masters the action of its own nature, Prakriti. It can take three different poises. One is it can only be a witness. The other is it accepts what's going on in the body-mind life in the world passively, without interference. Or it can become master of its own nature, individual nature as well as universal nature. So these three things are there.
So the third thing is that it controls Prakriti.
Yes, and that's exactly what Sri Aurobindo is doing.
Yes.
There are many instances. Okay, so he's curing people. He's asking for symptoms and curing people. He's intervening in a very positive way in the World War. So he's influencing the events. In fact, he says, in the Record of Yoga, he says that first you control small living creatures, then you go to men, then you control events in the world. There is this gradation. So, the Purusha is nothing but the immutable reality, the self that only witnesses, number one, or accepts passively, number two, or rules and masters the action of its own nature, number three. So, witness, self, Atman, Brahman. Okay? Accepts the Purusha. Rules and governs Lord Ishvara. So these are the three: Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara. Brahman is the one that witnesses. Purusha is the one that accepts passively. And ruling and governing at the highest level, the Ishvara consciousness. The duality of Purusha and Prakriti is created in order to let Purusha have total freedom from the clutches of Prakriti. This is a double action of nature. Number one, nature freely creates by itself with Purusha's passive support. Number two, Purusha, completely free, independent, creates innumerably, freely, through his own force. This arrangement allows spirit to transcend its own creation. It creates but is not bound by what it creates. Okay, that's what he means. This arrangement allows spirit to transcend its own creation or create anew whatever it wants to through nature. Okay, so then further, therefore, consciousness and force are always together in many relations, on many planes, each plane defining a particular relation between the two. Thus, in the highest level, or at the highest level, Prakriti is Purusha's own power. In matter, Prakriti is supreme and Purusha is involved, hidden in the works of Prakriti. On each plane, we have discussed this detail last time, I am just summarizing. On each plane, Purusha takes a stance corresponding to that level. On the mind plane, Purusha becomes a mental being. In life, it becomes a vital being. In matter, it becomes physical being. In man, spirit becomes a psychic being standing behind body, life and mind. Purusha is concomitantly, together, simultaneously, personal and impersonal, even though individual in man. Okay? So finally, at the highest level, Purusha and Prakriti are equal and they are not superior to one another. They can be equal to each other, they can be superior to the other, and they can also be all the combinations in between. That's what he's saying. They can be superior to each other. In matter, Prakriti is superior to Purusha. In the middle, Purusha is superior to Prakriti. Consciousness is ruling, there is immutability, no force. At the highest level, they are equal to each other. So this is the whole chapter. Brahman, Purusheshwara, Maya, Prakriti. We mustn't think that the spirit is static and can do only one thing. He is the good. You shouldn't think like that. He can take any stance he wants. That's the whole idea. Now, we will start reading the para that we have to read today. I'll read each sentence. But it is evident that whatever the posture taken or relation formed in any individual nodus of Purusha Prakriti, the being is in a fundamental cosmic relation, lord or ruler of its nature. For even when it allows nature to have its own way with it, its consent is necessary to support her workings. We'll look at what he's saying. It is evident that whatever the posture taken or relation formed in any individual nodus of Purusha Prakriti. Individual nodus of Purusha Prakriti, matter, life and mind. Individual nodus, he means either here or here or here. The site which he is referring to. Okay? So he says that the being is in a fundamental cosmic relation, lord or ruler of its nature. Purusha is always the Lord, but the Lord may decide, I am not going to interfere. Or he may say, okay, I will sanction. Or he will say, no, I will control. That's what he's saying here. So in matter, Purusha says, okay, Prakriti, do whatever you want with me. I am your prisoner. So the consciousness goes to sleep and Prakriti dominates over. There is no consciousness in matter. Consciousness is Purusha. Okay? At the middle level of the spiritual planes of consciousness disengages itself from Prakriti but says, I don't interfere. I neither permit nor allow nor deny. You do what you want. So Prakriti is mechanically going on doing whatever it wants. These are spiritual planes of consciousness. At the third level, I am controlling. Purusha says, I am controlling, I am master. So, but then how to explain these variations? Is it that Purusha is whimsical? No, it's not like that. It is that the Lord is always controlling. But when you control, there is a gradation of the control. Just like in any company. Okay? The chief executive officer lays down the policy that is to be done. He is the one who controls the production, what is to be produced, how it is to be produced, how it has to be marketed. Okay? So he lays down. He is a Lord always. But he works through his agents. He works through his manager, assistant manager, supervisors. And so the Lord is working in the cosmos through Prakriti. Do what you want. So that story about the man who is drowning in the sea explains that very well. The divine doesn't flout of his own rules. He has made the rules, he will stick to it. Okay. Sometimes they say divine grace is that in exceptional cases he does flout his own rules and break his own rules. That's the divine grace that comes.
But when you said at the third level, he allows Prakriti full control over matter.
Yes.
But he can also break that control.
That's the process of yoga. So he has to try. The individual is the spirit. Don't make a mistake. You are the divine. You yourself have elected and selected to imprison yourself in one body, body after body, body after body in many lives, and you now want to get out of it. And for that, you get experience. You get experience in one life, experience in another life. The more and more the soul is getting awakened. But it has started the journey by plunging himself into the opposite. It's a game that is being played. It's like Houdini. You've heard of Houdini.
Oh, yes.
He ties himself up, blindfolds himself, puts himself into a trunk. The trunk is locked, the lock thrown away, and the trunk is thrown into the sea. He comes out. This is what the divine is doing and enjoys what he's doing. Okay? This theory is fine, Leela of the divine. But there are many problems associated with that. So we have to again qualify. It's a large discussion, a very long discussion. But this is what it is. The divine is one, but here he becomes multiple. You are the divine, she is the divine, everybody is divine. And the game is being played billion times over and over again. That's the thing. So it's not that he is whimsical. Today I will control. Tomorrow I will not control. Day after tomorrow I will agree to whatever Prakriti is saying. It's not like that. There is a sequence to it. So what is being said here is he can take any poise he wants and he fixes these poises, and that's the relation between Purusha and Prakriti. That's a whole chapter, 40 pages. Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara, Maya, Prakriti, Shakti. So, this comes out in its fullest revelation in the third aspect of the reality, the divine being, who is the master and creator of the universe at the highest level. In the Gita, the Purushottama, in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, Ishvara and the supermind. The superman in the supermind. That's the third level. We always speak of three levels. Sri Aurobindo himself has spoken of three levels. Level 1, our condition. We see the many and we are in ignorance. We see only the forms. Level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness. You start seeing the oneness. You see the many, but they don't seem to have any fundamental reality. You see the oneness behind all the forms. But that's only one aspect. The third level, everything is harmonized. In the second level, Purusha and Prakriti both are there. The world is real, the spirit is real. Consciousness is real, force is real. But they are not connected. They are two different things. At the highest level, they become absolutely one, which is the third level.
So it would be the middle level where they would be seen as illusory?
Often. It depends. When you go to the spiritual levels of consciousness, you can either see the world as illusion, that's a nirvana experience, or if you are lucky and you have the cosmic consciousness, you will embrace the world. It will be real to you. But there is a difference between Purusha and Prakriti. They are not together. They are separate. That's what is explaining. Okay, so this comes out in its fullest revelation in the third aspect of the reality, the divine being. Now, when he speaks of divine being, he means the personal aspect of the divine, not the impersonal. In level 2, it's always impersonal. You don't see the divine, you don't see the personal aspect of the divine. If you are a bhakta, if you are a devotee of the Lord and you approach the divine through the path of devotion, you will have the experience of the personal aspect, but you won't have the universality. You may not have knowledge. You may not necessarily be in the spiritual planes of consciousness.
You may not necessarily be
in the spiritual plane of consciousness. You may not have the knowledge.
As
you
a
may not be in level 2.
as a bhakta.
Yeah. You have only intimacy and love with the divine, but knowledge may not be there. Second level, knowledge. The first level through this one is love and devotion. But at the third level, everything is available.
Is that why he keeps the love and devotion as the third aspect in the Gita?
Yes. Third aspect is up there, yes.
Yes.
That is the one that will allow you to see the divine as impersonal as well as personal. Okay? So, divine being who is the master and creator of the universe. Here, the supreme person, P cap, the personal aspect, the being, B cap, in its transcendental and cosmic consciousness and force, comes to the front, omnipotent, right?
Omnipotent.
Omnipotent, omnipotent, omniscient, right? The controller of all energies, the conscious in all that is conscient or inconscient, the inhabitant of all souls and minds and hearts and bodies, the ruler or overruler of all works, the enjoyer of all delight, the creator who has built all things in his own being, the all person of whom all beings are personalities, the power from whom are all powers, the self, the spirit in all, by his being the father of all that is, in his conscious force the divine mother, the friend of all creatures, the all blissful and all beautiful, of whom beauty and joy are the revelation, the all beloved and the all lover. It's a huge list he has given. Everything you can get at the third level.
In
We'll
one sentence.
Yeah, one sentence, that's right. But we'll see each one what he means. For instance, the ruler or overruler, what does he mean? We'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the third level, the divine being, okay, he's saying this comes out in its fullest revelation in the third aspect of the reality. Now look, he is himself talking of the third level. Okay, so that's why it's easy to think of level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay, so third level, what's the word he's using? Third aspect of the reality, the divine being, the personal aspect of the divine, who is the master and creator of the universe. It's like a king ruling his kingdom. Okay, so here the supreme person, now he is using the word supreme. He is not Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, he is not Christ, Buddha, no. He is a supreme person. He can be impersonal also.
And P cap.
Yes. P cap is always person, means the personal aspect of the divine. He has a form. But what is that form? Depends on the sadhak who is experiencing. According to his conception, the divine will manifest himself in that form to you. If you remember, mother's experience with Ganesh. She saw Ganesh as he is usually pictured, with that elephant trunk and all.
She said she never knew him before that.
Yes.
Until he came to her.
So, this is what is the personal aspect of the divine. Okay? So now, who is the master and creator of the universe? This creator of the universe you don't experience in level 2. You only see the vast universe and you see there is a consciousness, and the physical world may be unreal or it may be real depending on whether you have got your cosmic consciousness or not. Okay? If you have the cosmic consciousness in level 2, obviously the world is not unreal, it is real. Because you are everything. You have become everything. Okay? So he is saying, supreme person, the being in his transcendental and cosmic consciousness and force. So, this supreme person in his transcendental, impersonal, cosmic consciousness, one with everybody, comes to the front. And what is his nature at that level, third level? Omnipotent, omniscient. He has got power, he has got knowledge. The controller of all energies. He is the one who controls all the energies. Master, Lord. The conscious in all that is conscient. This is the This phrase is from the Katha Upanishad. The conscient in all, conscient or inconscient. His presence is there everywhere. Even in the stone, even in the worm, even in the cat, dog, human being, everywhere. He is there everywhere. The conscient in the conscient and the unconscient. Chetana Acetananam. That's the word used in the Katha Upanishad. So, the inhabitant of all souls and minds and hearts and bodies. So his presence is there everywhere. Okay? It's in the soul, the psychic being. But he's also there in the mind. And when he is there in the mind and you experience him as the mind, it's called the mental Purusha. Okay? Manomaya Purusha. He's a person. This is actually a representative in the mental plane. Okay? So then souls and minds and hearts and bodies. Even in the body he is there. The ruler or overruler of all works. He is a ruler, but he can also change the destiny, overrules his own. That also is possible. Of all works, the enjoyer of all delight. This overruler of all works is interesting. I think I told you once about a person here whose life was rather short. Mother was seeing everybody's hands and she saw this person's hand also and turned away very quickly. Then that person went and asked mother again, you went away without saying anything and you went away with a serious face. What happened? The mother told her, your lifeline is very short. But it was overruled by her.
She told me this story herself.
Yes, you know that.
Yeah.
So, and she's still living today, even today. So that's overruling.
She's a year older than me.
Huh?
1 year older than me. Yeah, she's had a good long life.
Okay, so ruler or overruler of all works, the enjoyer of all delight. So he is also the enjoyer. Okay, the bhokta. These are all taken from the Srimdu, of course, experience is there, but it's confirmed by the Gita. The bhokta. You can become the bhokta. Then the enjoyer of all delight, the creator who has built all things in his own being, because there is nothing else. We are starting from the Advaita philosophy. The building is not something outside him, it is within him. Okay, so the all person. Now this is interesting. All person, the personal aspects of the divine in everybody. Okay, so of whom all beings are personalities. So there you are. All beings are personalities. P lowercase. P lowercase personality means the outer nature. He always means that. Your body, your mind and your life. Okay, so this is always his personality. When he talks of, he means the outer nature. And when he talks of person with a P cap, he means the spirit or the soul or the consciousness or Satchidananda, whatever you want, the highest level. Okay, the personal aspect. Then he's saying the power from whom are all powers. Yeah, there is a very interesting line in Savitri also. He is the sun from whom we kindled all our fire. I am not remembering the exact line.
The sun from which we kindle all our suns.
That's the one.
The light that leans from the unrealized vasts.
That's the one. Repeat that thing again.
The light that leans from the unrealized vasts. The joy that beckons from the impossible.
Yeah. So, when we were children, Norman Dowsett used to, he had written a poem in which he says that the divine is an artist. He says he dips his brush into the sun and paints the rainbow. Beautiful.
Yes.
And so that is the light from which we kindle all our lights here. That's what it meant. He's saying the power from whom all are powers.
And then there's Virat, who lights his campfires in the sun.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember the exact lines. From whom all are power. The self, the spirit in all, by his being the father of all that is. In his conscious, now he's talking of father purposely, because father is a consciousness of all that is, all that exists. In his conscious force, the divine mother. There you are. So now, in the Advaita philosophy, you have the aspect of the divine mother. So you can either go through consciousness or you can go through force. You can go through the consciousness, the static aspect, or through the force, the dynamic aspect. There are many texts which take the, if you want liberation, go to the Divine Mother, she will do everything for you. Okay. So here it is very clearly.
I have consciousness force.
Yes.
You have conscious force?
No. I made a mistake. In his consciousness force. Okay. The Divine Mother, the friend of all creatures, the all blissful, the all beautiful, of whom beauty and joy are the revelation, the all beloved and all lover. So, everything available at the third aspect. The Purushottama or the Ishvara consciousness. In Srimdo's language, the supermind. Okay. So, in a certain sense, so seen and understood, this becomes the most comprehensive of all of the aspects of the reality, since here all are united in a single formulation. For the Ishvara is supracosmic as well as intracosmic. He is that which exceeds and inhabits and supports all individuality. Exceeds transcendental, inhabits cosmic, supporting all individuality, the individual aspect. He is the transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual. He is the supreme and universal Brahman, the absolute, the supreme self, the supreme Purusha. Okay? The supreme Purusha again, there is a footnote. Huh? Yeah, he is referring to the Gita. Yeah. The Supreme Purusha, he is actually translating Uttama Purusha. So Uttama is the highest. Uttama Purusha, but you reverse it and say Purushottama. Okay, it means the same thing. The Supreme, Srimdo is translating Supreme Purusha, he is talking of the Gita. But very clearly, this is not the personal God of popular religions. Okay, that's exactly what I meant was, he is not Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva or anything. He is not the personal aspect of every religion. In the religions, you approach God with form, only he is like a human being, but not with the limitations of a human being. You approach him in a form, mostly in religion. In spiritual life, you can approach him in the impersonal aspect. But in the religious form, only in Islam, they have this no form. He is a formless. But in Christianity, you have all the three.
Yes, to some degree that's true.
Yeah.
The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Ghost. The transcendental, the cosmic, and the individual.
But in the Orthodox faiths, they are not allowed to have three-dimensional figures, only icons. Because the divine cannot be represented in a human form.
So, Supreme Purusha. But very clearly, this is not the personal God of popular religions, a being limited by his qualities, individual and separate from all others. For all such personal gods are only limited representations or names and divine personalities of the one Purusha. Neither is this the Saguna Brahman, active and possessed of qualities, for that is only one side of the being, of the Ishvara. The Nirguna, immobile and without qualities is another aspect of his existence. Ishvara is Brahman, the reality, self, spirit, revealed as possessor, enjoyer of his own self existence, creator of the universe, and one with it, pantheos, and yet superior to it, the eternal, the infinite, the ineffable, the divine transcendence. So, there is a confusion sometimes in the West because they feel that Hinduism is polytheism. It's not polytheism. They are representations of the one divine. The Advaita philosophy very clearly says there is only one truth. But he has representative godheads and they are infinite. So they invented a new word for this. Monotheism, polytheism. Polytheism does exist in very primitive religions. It does exist. But Hinduism is not that. It is henotheism. They invent a new word which includes monotheism and also, so that's what I'm pointing out here. Okay, so limited representations or names and divine personalities of one Ishvara. Neither is this the Saguna Brahman. In other words, Saguna Brahman, divine with qualities, the personal aspect, and Nirguna, the impersonal aspect. But the Purushottama is something totally different. It combines all these. That's what he's saying, the third level.
So, my question, if that's a question, after from all others, there's a semicolon.
Yeah.
And then he says, for all such personal gods are only limited representations.
That's right.
Or names and divine personalities. So no religion knows the Ishvara in its full meaning.
Narad, I didn't exactly understand the question.
When he says for all such personal gods, he's referring to popular religions, I think.
Yeah.
And that they are only limited representations or names or divine personalities of the one Ishvara.
That's right.
So no religion truly knows Ishvara.
Religion, it depends on how you define religion. Is Gita can be considered as a religious thing?
Not for me.
Okay,
I don't think so. No. No.
But it's not a question of religion, or it depends on the individual, how he has seen the divine. It's possible that some Sufis have experienced the highest aspect. It is also possible that some saints in Christianity have. It's possible.
But that's not religion for me.
Yeah, that's it.
Because religion is structure and it's...
That's right. That is why it is so difficult to draw a line, a clear-cut line between religion and spirituality.
Yes.
You can't say that they are totally two different things. In a sense they are, but there is also a interpercolation of the two. There is a place where religion, you are following a religious life, but you can have a spiritual experience. It's possible. Okay, so that completes the para. The sharp opposition made between personality and impersonality by our mental way of thinking is a creation of the mind based on the appearances of the material world. For here in terrestrial existence, the inconscient from which everything takes its origin appears as something entirely impersonal. Nature, the inconscient energy, is entirely impersonal in her manifest essence and dealings. All forces wear this mask of impersonality. All qualities and powers, love and delight and consciousness itself, have this aspect. Personality, makes its apparition as a creation of consciousness in an impersonal world. It's a limitation by a restricted formation of powers, qualities, habitual forces of nature action, an imprisonment in a limited circle of self experience which we have to transcend. To lose personality is necessary if we are to gain universality, still more necessary if we are to rise into the transcendence. But what we thus call personality is only a formation of superficial consciousness. Behind it is the person who takes on various personalities, who can have at the same time many personalities but is himself one, real, eternal. If we look at things from a larger point of view, we might say that what is impersonal is only a power of the person. Existence itself has no meaning without an existent. Consciousness has no standing place if there is none who is conscious. Delight is useless and invalid without an enjoyer. Love can have no foundation or fulfillment if there is no lover. All power must be otiose if there is not an Almighty. For what we mean by person is conscious being. Even if this emerges here as a term or product of the inconscient, it is not that in reality. For it is the inconscient itself that is a term of the secret consciousness. What emerges is greater than that in which it emerges, as mind is greater than matter, soul than mind, spirit most secret of all, the supreme emergence, the last revelation is the greatest of all, and spirit is the Purusha, the all-person, the omnipresent conscious being. It is the mind's ignorance of this true person in us, its confusion of person with our experience of ego and limited personality, the misleading phenomenon of the emergence of limited consciousness and personality in an inconscient existence that have made us create an opposition between these two aspects of the reality. But in truth, there is no opposition. An eternal, infinite self-existence is the supreme reality. But the supreme transcendent eternal being, self and spirit, an infinite person we may say, because his being is the essence and source of all personality, is the reality and meaning of self-existence. So too, the cosmic self, spirit, being, person is the reality and meaning of cosmic existence. The same self, spirit, being or person manifesting its multiplicity is the reality and meaning of individual existence. So, it's difficult for us to understand how personality and impersonality can be the same, how a person can become impersonal. But there is one image which helps us to understand this. And again, he is explaining about ego. We'll look into that. So basically, the image of the salt, grain of salt can help a lot. Okay, the grain of salt has got qualities, features, characteristics. It's a personal aspect. It's got a form, but it's also got an essence of saltiness. So if you get rid of the form, the saltiness doesn't disappear. So the person, the God, the personal aspect can also become impersonal. The essence is not lost. He still is the divine. Put that grain of salt into water, the saltiness is everywhere. Impersonal, universal. So this helps us to understand the relation between impersonal and personal. The sharp opposition made between personality and impersonality by our mental way of thinking is a creation of the mind based on the appearances of the physical world. And here he is going to explain to us what is personal and impersonal. Okay. For here in terrestrial existence, the inconscient from which everything takes its origin appears as something entirely impersonal. He is talking of the inconscient, but we can think of matter. Out of matter, matter is not really inconscient. It is slightly more conscient than the inconscient. Matter has energy. It can be tapped. So there is something. It's not absolute. And the divine can be there in matter as form, as force. The inconscient is even below matter. So, but anyway, we can take. So matter, from matter, life is coming out. Mind is coming out. That's what he's saying. For here in terrestrial existence, the inconscient from which everything takes its origin appears as something entirely impersonal. Nature, the inconscient energy, is entirely impersonal in her manifest essence and dealings. Nature, the storm, there is no person. The wind, the river flowing, everything mechanical. That's what, the sunlight, everything mechanical and universal. There is no person there. That's what he's saying, apparently. Okay, so this is the in manifest essence and dealings. All forces wear this mask of impersonality. All forces, whatever you want to think of. Mechanical force, muscular force, light force, nuclear force, whatever you want. Always the impersonal aspect is there. Then, all forces wear this mask of impersonality. Look at the word mask. So it's only a mask. Behind the impersonality, there is a personal aspect. Again, the salt and the saltiness. Okay? So, behind the form of the salt is the essential saltiness. Behind the form is the formless. All qualities and powers, love and delight and consciousness itself have this aspect. So, then he is explaining about love, delight and consciousness in a very interesting way. Okay. Personality makes its apparition in a creation of consciousness in an impersonal world. It is a creation by a restricted formation of powers, qualities, habitual forces of nature action. An imprisonment in a limited circle of self-experience which we have to transcend. So nature is making all personal forms. It's
Apparition.
yeah. It appears as personal forms.
Yeah.
Stones, okay? Everything with a form and characteristics. So, the word apparition is interesting because an apparition can be
a ghost.
A ghost. But here he means the appearance of, beginning from something. That's what he means. The apparition is a creation of consciousness in an impersonal world. It's a limitation by a restricted formation of powers. You restrict and you have a restriction of power. It can express itself in so many ways. Okay. So, examples: restriction of power. It can become a tornado. It's got a form. It can become a cyclone. It can become an earthquake. So all these things. So restriction of powers, restricted formation of powers, qualities, habitual forces of the nature action. Habitual forces, those forces which you see in nature. Sunlight, it's always there. Light also is there. Then the force, wind. So that's what I mean, habitual forces of nature action. an imprisonment in a limited circle of self-experience which we have to transcend. Now his limited circle of self-experience which we have to transcend, you can speak of it as human beings or even animals. Animals are a limited circle of self-experience. Your self-experience is different from mine, it is limited. Okay? So that's the ego, that is coming to that. Imprisonment in a limited circle of self-experience which we have to transcend. We have to get rid of that. To lose personality. Now, that comma dash is a very interesting device which Srivamdana uses, which hardly anybody else uses. They would use either just a comma or a parenthesis. But he uses a comma dash. He never uses a parenthetical phrase. So when he says comma dash, so you have to see the beginning of the comma dash and you have to see the end of the comma dash. That's the parenthetical phrase. So you read the sentence without that and then read that separately and then combine the two again. So I am reading only the parenthetical phrase first. Okay? It's quite a big one. To lose personality is necessary if we have to gain universality, but still more necessary if we have to rise into the transcendence. I think in this particular case,
he hasn't used the second
it's not
dash.
ending. Okay,
No.
so it's just a comma dash. He is explaining what it means to transcend, which we have to transcend. He's saying, na. So, okay, let's be more specific. Limited circle of self-experience, the individual. You are an individual and you are a limited circle of self-experience.
Yes.
That's what it's meaning. The individual. Okay? But why is he saying this and not saying individual? Because it gives you more information. You are nothing but a limitation of universal forces. You are a limitation of matter. You are a limitation of pranic energy. You are a limitation of the mind. So he's giving you, if you understand the phrase, you will see that it's like the water becoming ice, pieces of ice. It's a sea which is becoming an iceberg. So you are really the universal at the material level, vital level and mental level, but you have been restricted to a self-experience with form. So this phrase,
I think the next sentence is very important.
yeah,
But what we thus call personality is only a formation of superficial consciousness.
yeah, that's right.
That's personality.
Okay, and behind it is a person who takes on various personalities. Okay, so who can have at the same time many personalities, but is himself one, real, eternal. If we look at things from a larger point of view, we may say that what is impersonal is only a power of the person. So, it's a power of the person, it's a characteristic of the person. Okay? But he's saying the other thing also. We may say that what is impersonal is only a power of the person. Existence itself has no meaning without an existent. Okay? The existent is the Purushottama. Okay? Consciousness has no standing place if there is none who is conscious. Delight is useless and invalid without an enjoyer. Love can have no foundation or fulfillment if there is no lover. All power must be otiose, useless, redundant, is what is meant by otiose, if there is not an Almighty. For what we mean by person is conscious being. Even if this emerges here as a term or product of the inconscient, it is not that in reality. For it is the inconscient itself that is a term of the secret consciousness. Okay? The inconscient is also only a form, a term of the secret consciousness. What emerges is greater. What emerges is greater than that in which it emerges. That's interesting what he's saying.
Yeah.
What emerges is greater than that from which it emerges. Life is emerging from matter. Life is superior to matter. Mind is coming out of life. Mind is superior to mind. Out of mind is coming the spiritual planes of consciousness that is superior to this. So, this most supreme is again the super mind. Okay? This again explains also the gradation downwards. The light which reduces itself, reduces itself, reduces itself. So if you come down, the higher is greater than the lower, and the lower is lesser than the higher. That gradation. Okay? So, mind is greater than matter, soul than mind, spirit most secret of all, the supreme emergence, the last revelation is the greatest of all. And spirit is the Purusha, the all person, the omnipresent conscious being. It is the mind's ignorance of this true person in us, its confusion of person with our experience of ego and limited personality, the misleading phenomenon of the emergence of limited consciousness and personality in an inconscient existence that have made us create an opposition between these two aspects of the reality. But in truth, there is no opposition. So, to make this sentence clear, we have to think of there is an ego, which is only a formation. But there is a true individuality, and the true individuality is throwing a shadow, which is the ego. When you realize the true individuality, the shadow disappears. So that's what he's saying. The ego is only a formation of the true individuality behind. Again, we come back to the idea of the saltiness and the grain of salt. Okay, so in eternal infinite self-existence is the supreme reality. But the supreme transcendent eternal being, self and spirit, an infinite person, almost contradictory in terms, but that's what it means. We may say, because his being, that comma dash is coming here. Okay, so the comma dash, an infinite person, we may say, because his being is the essence and source of all personality. So that's the parenthetical phrase, is the reality and meaning of his self-existence. So too, the cosmic self, spirit, being, person, is the reality and meaning of cosmic existence. The same self, spirit, being or person manifesting its multiplicity is the reality and meaning of individual existence. So, personality, impersonality is explaining. Both are real and they are complementary aspects of each other, but actually they are the same.
Thank you, Ram. Namaste all. Thank you.